על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחור ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבינך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך. תקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח לפני כסי כבודך כרך ניחוח. ותציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו. שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבדיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גילית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם, וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבל נקשר בדברים אלו. ובזכותם תהיה עינינו במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיני והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לו רצונים מפי, ויגון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגורלי. Master of the universe and Lord of lords, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we give thanks before you, O Lord, our God and God of our fathers, in bowing the head and prostrating ourselves, that you brought us close to your Torah and to your service, the holiest of services, and you've given to us a portion of the inner meanings of your holy Torah. What are we and what is our life that you've dealt with us such a great loving kindness as this? Therefore we lay our supplication before you, that you forgive and pardon all our sins and iniquities, and do not let our iniquities separate us from you. And may it be your will, O Lord our God and God of our fathers, that you prepare our hearts to have reverence of you and love of you, and may your ears listen to these our words. Open our uncircumcised heart in the inner meanings of your Torah, and let this learning give pleasure before the throne of your glory as a sweet-smelling fragrance. Bestow upon us the light of the source of our soul in all its aspects, and may the sparks of your holy servants, to whom you revealed these your words into the world, shine forth, and may their merit, and the merit of their fathers, the merit of their Torah, their wholeness and holiness, stand by us, that we do not stumble in these words. And through their merit enlighten our eyes on what we are learning, as the sweet singer of Israel said, open my eyes, and I will look on the wonders of your Torah. For the Lord gives wisdom from his mouth, knowledge and understanding. May the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be ever acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Now, it says there's two chats. Adam says he'll be back shortly. Okay. Great. Now I'm going to do stop share. That's that. Right. Now, before we go into the text today, obviously, you know, what's happening in America is on everybody's minds. What can I tell you? It's painful. It's very, very, very painful. And it makes us ask a lot of questions about ourselves, about what our purpose is, and what we're all doing here. Why did the soul, which was in this very beautiful, elevated, wonderful experience, wonderful world up in the Ein Sof, in the higher worlds, why did it want to come down into this world? What did it gain by coming into this very, very chaotic, difficult world? Now, when I thought that this would be the right learning to do this week, I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. After learning, you know, this incredible material, receiving the Torah on Mount Sinai that we learnt, coming up to Shavuot, the Zohar that we learnt, I thought, let's have a change of pace, you know, let's go into a more personal way. What's the purpose of the human being in the world, okay? What's our connection with Torah? I had no idea what the world would look like, okay? And when we see what's happening in the States, I mean, it's heartbreaking. There's no two ways around it. Absolutely heartbreaking to see the chaos and the turmoil and the pain. It's just terrible. So I think that somehow, you know, God guides our learning. We don't guide our own learning. God guides our learning. And so he wants us to be learning this material right now. So why we come into the world, what's the purpose of it, okay? So the first thing we're going to look at today is actually a piece from the Zohar, but it's a piece that I've translated and actually appears in the book Tapestry for the Soul. So I've just got the English translation here, which is actually here. Oh, wait a minute. Did I do share screen? I don't know if I did it. I might not have done. Share screen. That's right. You've got to be so careful with this thing. No, that's right. Share. Okay. I think I got it now. Okay. I'm getting better. I'm slowly getting better. All right. Now I'm going to make it nice and big. Zoom in. There we are. So you can read it while I read. You can read it while I read it, kind of thing. All right. Now let me get rid of this out the way. All right. There. So first we're going to look at creation in general. What is creation about? And then we're going to see the creation of the human, the specific creation of the human. What is special about the human? All right. And then we'll be able to see, and then we're going to learn a letter, much more personal letter, which Rav Ashlag wrote to his brother, in which we're going to look at things from a more personal perspective. Okay, so this is how it begins. It's taken from Rabbi Ashlag's Perush Sulam. It's his commentary on the Zohar, and it's actually in it's in his first volume. Okay, it's actually on the discussion on what the mitzvah tzedakah consists of, but that's something else. Everything that you find in the work of creation is a matter of differentiation and clarification. Okay, this is what differs between creation and the Ein Sof. In the Ein Sof, you've got the light and the vessel, and they're completely one. But when you come into creation, you've got polarity. Right from the very beginning. The moment you've got in the Ein Sof, you've got everything is one. Okay? And then we begin to get polarity. We get the light and we get the vessel for the light. All right? We get the light and we get the absence of light. A vessel is absence of something, a desire for something, and therefore it's an absence. So the actual work of creation is polarities. All right? It's a matter of differentiation and clarification. For example, Genesis chapter 1. And God differentiated between the light and the darkness. What's darkness? The absence of light. Likewise, he differentiated between the upper water and the lower water. That would be the heavens and the clouds and the seas. Also between the water and the dry land. Likewise, regarding the earth bringing forth herbs. The issue of each according to its own kind is a differentiation. One can say the same regarding the governance of the day and the governance of the night. Equally regarding the emergence of the animals from the water and from the land, such that all these distinctions teach the clarification of the holy from what's called the shells, which are the klipot. These are the sparks of light which keep the evil going, or the good from the evil. And all that is thus clarified becomes an aspect of existing reality as is fitting to the Creator in holiness. And this is the inner meaning of the saying of the sages that the entire work of creation is included in the declaration of the first day, let there be light. For within that declaration is included the whole differentiation between the light and the darkness, whereas the holiness is called light and the klipot are called dark. And all the other descriptions of the differentiation between the framework of holiness and klipot, that's the klipot are the shells, which for us which hide the light, okay? And all the differentiations between holiness and uncleanness, holiness and the shells, are details and branches of the overall differentiation between light and dark. Okay, so far so good. So what we have, we've got the whole of creation as it's described in Genesis. Okay, light and dark is the main differentiation, And you've got all the different branches of everything being defined, okay, clarified, what it is, what it isn't, okay? You can see it goes through right through the inanimate, the plants, the animals, and hasn't talked about the humans yet, okay? Right. And the reason is because we're going to go on. However, despite this differentiation between the light and the dark, with which all the created beings of creation were clarified, the tikkun is still left incomplete. The entire aspect of evil or dark appears as something for which there is no use. And this is not at all fitting for his perfection, may the one be blessed. The tikkun of creation will only be complete in accordance with the inner meaning of the phrase, even darkness will not cause dark to come from you, and the night will give light as day, the darkness will shine as much as the light. So in order to correct this darkness, the human being was created. Now what is the human being? Why is the human being different from all other aspects of creation? Because all other aspects of creation belong either to the framework of holiness or to the framework of uncleanness. That's it. They belong either to one or to the other. They can't belong to both at the same time. Only the human being includes everything, from the uttermost evil to the ultimate good. Just think about that. Every other created being is either in the framework of holiness or in the framework of uncleanness. All right? Now, it's either one or the other. Only the human being can include it from the uttermost evil to the ultimate good. Why is this? Because the human being is actually composed of two systems simultaneously. Well, not precisely simultaneously. When we begin, we grow up from 0 to age 13 for a boy, 12 for a girl. Okay, that's the time of bar mitzvah for a boy or bat mitzvah for a girl. Okay, everything is under the framework of what's called evil. Evil is the will to receive oneself alone, just developing the ego. Okay, so the person starts off by just developing his ego from 0 to 13. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that his development stops there. It doesn't. The ego continues to develop, all right, throughout his life. But what happens at the age of 13 for a boy and 12 for a girl is that the beginning of the soul comes in. Now, we do have a point source of soul from the beginning, obviously, because we breathe and we live and we're alive, all right? But actually, the soul begins to have a conscience, to have a voice inside the person from the beginning of his teenage years. And we know what it's like. We've all been there. When we become teenagers, it's like our souls wake up and we want to change the world and we want to do good in the world. And this is not just a phase we go through. It's because our souls are waking up. So we have the ego, the formation of the ego from 0, and of course the physical body as well, from 0 to 12, 13. And then at that point, the soul begins to wake up. Now, I'm not saying that's when our development finishes, not at all. The ego continues to develop, okay, and also goes into more the emotional realm and into the further into the intellectual realm and into the spiritual realm. All aspects of the ego develop after the age of 13 as well. But the soul also begins to develop. And that's why at that point a person should be starting to do some sort of Torah and mitzvot, because he needs to give food to the soul, not just food to the ego. Now, when we use our ego, which is our will to receive from ourselves alone, if we just use it for ourselves alone, then we are getting into egoism. Okay, we're getting into selfish love. We're getting into self-gratification. Okay, and that pulls us away from holiness and takes us into, it can take us into complete evil, as we saw. I mean, like, horrific, absolutely horrific. And and it's the person gets overwhelmed with his own reality, his own egoism. He doesn't see anything outside his egoism, and then evil can happen. All right. And then you can get, but on the other hand, we have the soul, and the soul is also, but the soul develops to quite a large extent, to the extent that we put effort into it. It's not going to, I mean, the tick-tock, of the heart and the breathing and all that, the basic level will stay for everybody for, the amount of time we're given to be here. But its conscious development depends on our doing conscious work. All right? So its conscious development does depend on how much work we put in. Okay? And there are 5 levels of soul, as we're going to see in the letter that we're going to be looking at. So you've got the human being, and he has 2 systems within himself. The uttermost of evil to the ultimate of good. Now, what does this mean? It means that he has the capability of moving stuff from the side of evil to the side of good. Now that makes him unique. All the other aspects of creation are either one or the other. And the way it was left like this was like we're left in the sense as if the whole aspect of evil is just left untouched, unused, can't do anything. But the human being is capable of taking a negative attribute, a negative action, and transforming it to good. Okay, he's capable of that because he has both systems inside of him. And then goes on to say it's through his hand that the tikkun will be finished to the required perfection. That is, the evil will transform into good, the bitterness into sweet, the darkness will shine like the light, death will be swallowed up forever, and the Lord will be king over all the earth. All right, that is the incredible potential of the human being, and that is the incredible purpose for which he was created. It is his uniqueness.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Now, who was that? Was that David? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I recognized your voice. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. You said that everything outside of the human being is only one or the other. It's only evil or it's good. It's only good or it's evil.
Yeah.
But isn't it? It doesn't both sides ultimately come from the Ein Sof? So
They do.
aren't they like essentially good, even evil?
Ah, that's an excellent question. Very good indeed. All right, so to answer your question is, in the Ein Sof, all right, the light and the vessel are one, okay, and there's absolutely no space for any evil whatsoever, all right? However, there's the first step that happens following the Ein Sof is called the step of Tzimtzum, which means contraction. Now, what actually happens is that the vessel in the Ein Sof is just surrounded by this light, which is giving and giving and giving to it, and goodness and giving and giving and giving. And the vessel says, "Whoa, this is really good. This giving thing is really great. It really enjoys itself." Okay. And then there's the spiritual principle, which says that every branch wants to be like its root. So it says, "Wow, I came from the light. I'm a branch of light. I want to be like that. I want to be giving just like the light is giving." Okay, and this is like the first impulse towards creation. And it wants to be giving like the light is giving. In fact, it's the vessel, but it wants to be giving. A vessel is receiving, and it wants to be giving. So the first thing it does is it says, okay, I'm going to, no more receiving. I don't want to receive anymore. I want to be a giver. That moment when he says no more receiving, okay, the light leaves. So now we have an empty vessel, okay, and we have the light, and it's like they're left, it's like separated from each other. This empty vessel is called the empty space, the halal panoi, empty space. All right. And what happens is the vessel says, "Woo, I'm empty. I need the light." It suddenly realizes it's like a baby being born, and suddenly it feels hungry. All right. Beforehand, it got all its food through its mum. Like the vessel inside the Ein Sof got all its light through the Ein Sof. Suddenly it's separated and says, whoa, I need light. I'm hungry. I'm, kind of thing. And the light comes back to it. But just before it comes back, the vessel realizes if it just receives the light again, it'll be back where it was. No. It wants to keep its idea that it wants to learn how to give. So it gives back the light and eventually is able to receive just a small proportion, okay? Let's say 10%. The rest of it stays outside. Now, it's only using a small proportion of the original vessel. And what's the part of the vessel which is not being used is the potential for where the uncleanness, for where the evil can come from. Because when you have an empty vessel which is not filled with light, it's actually a source for the will to receive for itself alone. In the Ein Sof, the vessel can receive for itself alone. There's no problem about it. In the Ein Sof, it's fine. But after that decision that it made, it's actually made that idea that only in accordance with its decision will be holy, and what's not in accordance with decision will be unclean. So it's following the idea that it wants to be more in affinity of form, more in compatibility with the light. Then we get the potential for separation and eventually for egoism and for ego. So yeah, they both come from the Ein Sof. And the purpose of that is so that we choose, we have choice now. The moment we have duality, we have choice. Okay? So yeah, you're right. They both come from the Ein Sof, but the empty space is the empty part of the vessel, which is not yet being used for giving, is actually the source of the potential source for the ego and the will to see for itself alone and the evil. That was rather a long answer to your question, but did that help?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Baruch Hashem, that was a brilliant question. Okay. Anybody else got a question or want to say something? No? All right. But call out if you want to. All right? So, in order to correct this darkness, the human being was created. And he includes everything from the uttermost evil to the ultimate of good. Now, when we say the human being, we're talking both about the individual and we're talking about the whole collection of the human being as a whole. Because the human being who was created was actually one human being. That was Adam with Eve. Okay, they were created as one, actually. Adam and Eve were created as one. Later they separated. But they're one soul, all right? So this human being, this one soul was created, and his potential is of all the human beings, past, present, and future put together. So we can certainly see that we can include everything from the uttermost evil to the ultimate of good. We have the uttermost evil, we've seen that in history, and we've got the ultimate good. We've seen the most amazing, great tzaddikim, great sages also. And so through his hand, through the human being, as the collective and as the individual, we all take part in this. The tikkun will be finished to the required perfection. What is the tikkun? the transformation of moving everything that's in the framework of evil to the framework of holy. That's our role. That's why we were created. Okay? It's only through the human being's hand that the tikkun will be finished to required perfection. That is, evil will move over, will transform into good, the bitterness into sweet, the darkness will shine like the light, death will be swallowed up forever, and the Lord will be king over all the earth. Okay? So, that's a process. We can't do all in one go. Okay? It started right from the Adam and Eve, and we're still working on it, as we can see. We're not there yet. Nevertheless, what has been done up till now is not lost. Whatever's been done is already done. We add to the tikkun all the time. Okay? Sometimes it seems that human beings are going backwards and not forwards. But whatever we've done in the past is not lost. Okay? The sages teach us that in spirituality, every new stage is a additional stage. So any good that we've done over the centuries remains good. Okay? And now we have to add to that good. And eventually the evil will transform into good, the bitterness into sweet, the darkness will shine like the light, death will be swallowed up forever, and the Lord will be king over all the earth. And this is the inner meaning of let us make man in our image. And it says, Naseh Adam b'tzalmeinu, b'tzelem. The tzelem is the image, in our image. Kidmutenu, like us. Why does it say both? Surely it's enough to say, let us make man in our image. Okay? Let us make man in our image. But Salmenu. Why do you have, what's the addition of Kidmutenu for? So the sages of the Zohar teach us that the light is called the Tselem and the darkness is called Demut. Okay, the word Demut, anybody who knows a bit of Hebrew, is also the letters Demavet, of death. Okay, so the darkness is Demut, of death, such that man will be created from, now we have to say human beings, that human beings will be created from both of these forces, Tselem and Demut, light and dark. And through this means all the tikkun will be completed by the human. The Malchut, that is the whole vessel, the vessel we talked about in the Ein Sof, okay, the rectified vessel of receiving. Well then, and it's also the name of the Shekhinah. Remember when we learnt that beautiful piece of Zohar, how the Shekhinah stood under the chuppah with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with God, okay? So that's the Malchut, the Shekhinah. Will then emanate in her holiness over all the world to receive. And the Lord will be one, and his name will be one. For the darkness in the world will then have been transformed into complete light. Okay? Amen. Great. Was that okay? Everybody all right there?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much.
That's great. Super. All right then. Anybody want to ask any questions? Because we'll go on now to the letter. No? All right then.
I have
Go on, David.
one more thing. It's still kind of bugging me. So it's really only there's only evil really from the perception of the vessel, right? It's not like it's like the light doesn't actually change. Someone once said, it wasn't me, but it's really the perception. It's really from the vessel, the uncorrected vessel, that filters it out and creates, right, and changes the light. It's really only from the human being, from the perception of the human being. It's not. I'm asking, but I'm also commenting. It's not it's not the light in and of itself.
I agree with you. The light itself is one, okay? Now the light is goodness. The light is God's goodness. That's the definition of the light. The vessel, however, has the choice to turn its back on the light. Okay? And we do that. I mean, you know, we have within us all the changes that we see, or the separations that we see, and the evil that we see, comes from the vessels. It comes from the desire of the vessel to receive for itself alone. And that desire is part of its original nature. The vessel comes from the Malchut of the Ein Sof, which is the vessel. Let's start from the beginning. In the Ein Sof, the light has the desire to give goodness to all created beings. That's the purpose of creation. All right? In order to fulfill that purpose of giving goodness to all created beings, it has to create a vessel to receive that goodness. So that vessel exists right from the very beginning in the Ein Sof. And in the Ein Sof, it is receiving. It's just receiving. But in the Ein Sof, which is the infinite, it's perfectly okay for it to receive. There's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely fine. It's when it still carries on behaving like that, when it's already created, a created separate being, and it's still just behaving like, I want to receive, I want to receive, I want to get, I want to get, I want to get, whatever it's sort of satisfaction it thinks, without any reference to anything else, that's when it becomes evil. Okay? So it's like behaving as if it was still in the Ein Sof, but it's completely out of context. So it's definitely the behavior of the vessel which is the problem. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. You basically got it. I mean, yeah, kol hakavod. I'm very impressed. Very nice.
It's a pleasure
All
to
right, then.
learn from you, and really.
Yeah, well, Baruch Hashem, slowly. Very good. What page you did? Oh dear, sorry, I never saw your thing. Oh right, now the other letter, yes, it's I have it in my new book. It's called Treading the Path. I mean, in the chapter Treading the Path. So if you've got my new book, anybody, this letter appears on page 76. And if you haven't got my new book, whoops, what did I do? Oh, I need to do share screen, sorry. Share screen. That's the one. There, okay. Now, I'm going to put on the chat, if I can actually find how to do that. Chat, there we go. All right, so sorry about that. And the piece we just learnt from the Tapestry for the Soul. Okay, so I'll write Tapestry for the Soul. The page was 103. Okay, and thanks, Devorah. And the other one, and the thing we're going to be learning now is the chapter called Treading the Path in Master of the Ladder, and that is page, I can't remember. Let me see, where were we? 76. There you go. All right, and for anybody who doesn't have the books and wants them, because they're brilliant, I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I really think they are. I mean, I just feel they were inspired. Oops.
I would recommend.
I would also recommend. It's one of the best books I've ever read. it's amazing.
Baruch Hashem.
Still doing Chazar on it. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, listen, I don't think that I wrote these things. I think that Rabbi Ashlag had a lot to do with it, to quite honestly. Oh, what have I done now? That's not what I
100%.
want to do. I need to get, right, that's good. Okay, so that's all on the chat. If anybody needs the references. Now, this is an amazing letter. It's one of my favorite pieces, actually. I really, really, really love this letter. It took a long time for me to translate it, and I still go over it. I think there's something very special. It's a letter that Rabbi Ashlag wrote to his brother. Okay? Parsha Vayigash in December 11th, 1926. He was still a relatively young man, you know. He was born at the end of the 19th century, but really at the end. He was pretty young. I think about 30 when he wrote this letter. To my dear brother, the honoured Rabbi Shmuel, with all this, I will write to you of what the path of the middle line in the service of God consists, so that you should always aim for the right-hand line and the left-hand line. Judaism in general is the path of the middle line. It's the path of compromise. It's the path of coming to love by accepting the others, by accepting oneself. It's the middle line. Okay, you've got, I'm sure you've all been learning Sfirot and things. You've got the right hand line of Chesed, you've got the left hand line of Gevurah, but it's the middle line which is where we're aiming for. Okay, we don't want the extremes. It's better to have the middle, to include. All right? So, now some people who walk a path but end up worse off than the person who sits and does nothing. This is one who deviates from the way. Indeed, the true way is a very thin line on which a person continues to tread until he comes to the inner palace of the king. The inner palace of the king is where we can actually experience the light of God in a conscious way. The inner palace of the king is this sort of term which means that we have the revelation of the light of God as a continuous experience. That's what we all long for. We all long for that. So we're walking a path, okay, and he says, listen, you've got to be careful, because you could sort of walk the path and you can start off okay, but if you're not careful, you can end up missing where you need to go. All right? This picture is a true picture. And he says, if in the beginning a person deviates by so much as a hair's breadth, even if subsequently he were to go in a truly straight line, zook, okay, he could not come by any means to the palace of the king because he does not tread a true line. So what we need to do is make sure we're going in the right direction. So this letter was really a letter to help us see what would be a good way to tread. Okay? So there's two aspects of this letter. One is advice about the best way to tread now that we are here on earth. And the second part of the letter is, or the middle bit of the letter, is about why we came here in the first place. Okay? Right. I'll explain the middle line to you. All right? Now, we said that the middle line is where we're aiming for. It accords with the inner meaning of the text. The Torah, the Holy Blessed One, and Israel, the soul, are one. That's a pretty powerful statement. It comes from the Zohar. Now, the Torah itself, it has got garments, all right? It comes to us in different forms. We've got the written Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, the prophets and the writings. We've got the oral Torah, which is made up of different aspects, the halacha, the mitzvahs. We've got the parables, the agadot, and we've got the Kabbalah, the inner meanings of the Torah. These are the garments of the Torah. This is the way the Torah is presented to us. But inside all of those garments is one light, okay? One essence. And it's sometimes called the wearer of the garments, okay? And that's what it means. The wearer of the garments, the essence of the light inside Torah, is the Holy Blessed One, is God himself. The essence of God, the essence of the Torah, and the essence of the soul are one. One essence. Okay? And it comes to us in different forms. Through the Torah, through God himself, and through the whispers of our soul. It's one essence completely. Amazing statement. It's very incredible that we can access God in these different ways. For the purpose of the soul's coming into the body, the reason she came down from the higher worlds to be present in this physical body is that she should merit, while still clothed by the body, while she's still here in the physical presence, to return to her root, like to connect with God while we are still here, okay? And to unite in Dveikut with her creator. Dveikut meaning unity, to divide and unite with God, may be blessed, as it is written in the scripture, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to unite with him in Dveikut. Now, the sages asked a very important question. They said, how can you unite with God when he's a flaming fire? All right? Eish ochlahu. How can you possibly unite with a flaming fire? You know? And the answer is, just as he is merciful, so you be merciful. Just as he is compassionate, so you be compassionate. To unite with all his ways. Okay, his pathways, to unite with his midot, with his attributes. Just as God heals the sick, you heal the sick. Just as God cares for the poor, you care for the poor. Just as God is kind and giving, so you be kind and giving. Okay? And that's how we can unite with him. So, the purpose of the soul coming into the body is that she should merit, while still in this body, to cling to God. How? Through actually doing and enacting the same attributes that he has. And that's what it means to love the Lord your God, to want to be connected with him, to walk in all his ways, to be kind and giving and compassionate. And that will bring us to unite with him in Dveikut. Because Dveikut means affinity of form. Affinity of form means that we're acting and we have the same desire. Just as God is giving, we should be giving too. So you see that the final purpose of the soul is to come to Dveikut with God. And to be in the same Dveikut that she had before she became clothed in the body. Because when we were up there in the Ein Sof, we were certainly in Dveikut with God. Okay? When we come down into this world, we get these two systems going inside of us, and it's not so easy. It's definitely not so easy. We've got to choose. Okay? And we have our own battles each time, because we have the ego, as we saw, also inside of us. We have both. We have both systems inside one person. All right? And that's not so easy. So, we need great preparation for this. How are we going to walk in all his ways? Because the ego is driving us crazy. All right? The ego says, do what you want. Don't do what God wants. The ego says, just do what you fancy. Do what you feel. Just follow your emotions. Don't put a stop on them. The ego is just wanting to work for selfish love. All right? So we need great preparation to walk in all his ways. It's very true that the ego tends to shout when the soul tends to whisper. So it's not so easy for us to hear the voice of the soul. He says, okay, how are we going to walk in all his ways? Who can know the ways of God may be blessed? But this is the inner meaning of the Torah. The Torah was given to us to help us. Barati Yetzer Hara, Barati Torah Tavlin. Yes, God created the evil inclination. He gave us that evil inclination because there was a higher purpose to it. Without giving it to the human being, that evil would be left without any correction whatsoever, be left as something which had no use. Do you remember? So yes, he created the evil inclination, but he gave us the Torah to help us with it. The Torah is the healing medicine for the evil inclination. And this is the inner meaning of the Torah, which has 613 paths. All right? 613 paths. Anybody know the number 613? It's the number of 613 mitzvot, isn't it? So the 613 mitzvot are pathways. What's a path? A path is what leads us to a good place, okay? It's a pathway, 613 pathways, so that one who walks them, will walk these paths, will in the end purify himself or herself, okay? I apologize for not being able to put all the himselfs and herselfs in the book, but I couldn't do it. I tried so hard, okay? But there were some sentences which just completely defeated me. This was one of them, all right? Purify himself so that his body, his ego, will no longer form an iron barrier between himself and his creator. As it is written, and I will remove the heart of stone from within you. Okay? All right. So as we walk the paths, okay, which connect us with God, they also purify the ego. They purify those wills to receive within us that are separating us and which are causing us to connect with evil, okay? The paths of Torah are twofold. They bring us to the good and they stop us doing the bad, okay? As we know, they're divided into the positive commandments and the don't do's, the yes do's and the don't do's. The yes do's bring us closer to God. The don't do's stop us doing the evil, all right? And as we walk them, we will in the end purify ourselves so that our body, our ego, will no longer form an iron barrier between ourselves and the Creator. As it is written, and I will remove the heart of stone from within you. And then the person will become one with the Creator, exactly as it had been united with him before the soul became clothed by the body. All right? So, what does that mean? It means that as we were in the Ein Sof, we were one with God, okay? Now we came and became connected with the ego, with the egoism. It's also called, with our personalities, our wills to receive for ourselves alone. Okay, we become connected. We become in this physical body with all its difficulties and chaos. Okay? Nevertheless, through the practice of Torah, we can actually become one with the Creator in exactly the same way as we were before the soul became clothed by the body. We find that there are three aspects involved. Israel, which refers to the person who labors to return to his root. 2. The Holy Blessed One, the root from whom he yearns, for whom he yearns. And the Torah, which has 613 paths through which a person may purify his soul and his ego. Now, these three aspects that we saw earlier really are one, okay? In their essence, they're one. So we've got the person, who's the soul, is Israel. We've got God, who is the root from whom he yearns. And we've got the Torah, which is the pathway how to get close to God and to purify the soul. All right? Now, these three are seen to us as three separate aspects. All right? But in fact, in their essence, they are one. As we work through Torah, When we purify the soul and the ego, it is to this purification that the sages of the Talmud were referring when they called the Torah medicine. And that's what we said earlier. As 'tis written, I created the evil inclination, I created the Torah as its medicine. However, in truth, these three elements, the Torah, the Holy Blessed One, and Israel, are one. Thus, in the end, every worker for God must attain them as being one, single, and united. And this, for those who've been learning tapestry, there's a section which is called Achad, Yachid, and Miyuchad, and this is what it refers to here. Echad is the unification as it is in the Ein Sof. Yachid, where we see that behind every action of God's, whether it seems to us to be good or bad, is only one purpose, and that is to do good to the created beings. And we have to believe that because we can't see it at the time. But Umiyuchad is when we get to complete consciousness and together with God, then we can actually see it. So in the end, every worker for God must attain them as being one, single, and united. And they appear as separate entities only to the extent that a person's service to God is incomplete. So when we're not complete, we see it as separate things. When our service to God is complete, it just is one. We really see it as one. So when our service to God is complete, we will see that the soul, God, and Torah really are one. Now, how are we doing for time? Before we go on, let's just stop a moment and just check if there's anybody who wants to ask anything. Or are you guys okay over there? Out there?
Doing well.
Doing well. That's great. There's somebody on the chat said something. You're all okay. That's wonderful. Terrific. All right. Doing great. Great. Hooray. Baruch Hashem. Lovely. All right. Good. Now get rid of that again. All right then. Now we're not going to be able to finish the whole letter today. All right. It's a good letter. It's a really good one. Okay. So we'll carry on next week. I will help you understand somewhat, and a little you will see, but the whole you will not see except through God's saving grace. Know that the foundation of the soul is part of God on high. Before it's coming into the body, the soul is in unity with God, as is a branch with its root. The Holy Ari teaches that God created the worlds because it was his will to reveal his holy names, that he is merciful and compassionate. For if there were no created beings, there would be none to whom he could show compassion. Look here well, for these matters are very deep. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but it's really only in this world, with the presence of evil, that we can actually see how God functions in that sense. It's a revelation. You see, look, God created the worlds, the spiritual worlds. Now, we learn in the Kabbalah that it starts off with the light and the vessel coming together. And then as the vessel, as the light, the worlds unfold, what actually happens is that the light and the vessels become more and more separate from each other, so that the vessel becomes an individual entity on its own. And it reaches a point in this world, the consciousness of this world, where people can wander around the world perfectly happily and have no idea at all that God created them. Absolutely no idea. Okay? People live with the idea that they are realities in their own, have no idea of their connection with other human beings, have no idea of their connection with other parts of creation, have no idea of their connection with the Creator. All right? And that is the consciousness of this world. So when we actually come to have an understanding that God is there and that he created us is that's kind of like a revelation. It's only when things happen that we actually see his compassion. It's only when things happen that we see how merciful he is. When, I mean, like, you know, when people, God forbid, get coronavirus, for example, and they walk out of the hospital, then they say, thank you, God. How did that happen? Thank you, God, for you healed the sick. If there was no sick to heal, you would never know that God heals the sick. It's like a person doesn't learn how to forgive until somebody upsets him. All right? It's tough. I mean, we wish the world wasn't like this, but it is like this. Okay? Obviously, that's the way we have to learn. We learn through the opposites. If nobody ever made me angry, I would never learn how to deal with my anger. It's only because people upset me that I learn how to deal with it. All right? If nobody ever upset me, I would never learn how to forgive. Forgiveness, we learn forgiveness because somebody hurt me. Okay? So, the Holy Ari teaches that God created the worlds and created the situation where we would be so separated from him that we don't even know he's there. But it's dafka there. It's absolutely in that space that he can reveal his holy names, that he is merciful and compassionate. Okay? For if there were no created beings, there would be none to whom he could show compassion. Look here well, for these matters are very deep. Okay? I think that's probably, let me just check. Yes. I think that's probably a good place to stop. We're 1 minute early, but I think that's probably the best place to stop right here. Okay? Because then he's sort of like going into that in more detail. So I think that's a good place to press pause. Okay? Because we've reached our time now. And we'll go on with this amazing letter next week. And in the meantime, yeah?
It's so appropriate to the corona situation.
Sorry?
It's so appropriate to the situation that we're living in.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it, Miriam. I had no idea.
Corona came in order to, you know, we're going on with our lives and we're going on and we're going on and we're productive and we know, and then all of a sudden nobody knows anything. And it's just, it's an invitation to turn upwards. Like,
absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. I had no idea when Akiva asked me what we would do. This was 2 weeks ago or something. I said, okay, we're going to learn this letter. I had no idea how very, very important this letter was going to be for us this week. Right, so we're going to carry on B'ezrat Hashem next week, and I'm hoping that with the power of our learning, that brings more light into the world, and it brings more peace into the world, and it's going to bring more calmness and more compassion into the world. Okay? And a lot of cheshbon nefesh, a lot of deep self-accounting needs to be shown by different elements in the United States. And we pray that everybody will look inside themselves and really ask the questions about what's going on. And obviously I pray for the soul of George Floyd, but I also pray for the people who are so desperately angry that they should calm down and not hurt themselves and hurt their communities. So let's hope that somehow learning this letter has helped us. All right. Okay.